So today's essential question, we covered completing the square last lesson, right? So we're good with that. And what I want you guys to do with the skill that you learned, take that skill of not essentially solving for x, right? But just to build up that completing the square part. That's what we're going to take. And we're going to apply it to circles. So your essential questions for today are, what is the standard form of a circle? And how does completing the square help me to get the equation of a circle? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys the circle formula. Okay, so here is the circle formula. Okay, center, remember, or is going to be at h comma k. So I apologize for the picture here. It should be more of a circle and not an ellipse or an oval shape. So the center is at h comma k, and notice that it's x minus h quantity squared, completing the square part here, right? Completing the square part here, okay? Equals r squared, okay? So that's why we need that completing the square part. In order for us to build this equation, we need that skill, okay? So it's x minus h quantity squared minus or plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. And r is the radius of the circle. So that center point, h comma k, is this point here. Okay? And it's easy to graph, and I'll show you guys what to do there. Okay? Yes. The negative would, if your center is at, if your h value is at -3, it would come out as x plus 3. Yeah. So it would flip the sign. Yeah. Okay. So let's run through some examples of that and how we use that. It just says to write the equation of a circle with the center, a circle with the center, C, 1 comma -4, and your radius is 2, right? So here, again, I will write out the equation of a circle. It's x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared, right? So all we do, if we're given the center and we're given the radius, all we're going to do is just plug it in. Yeah. X and y is just x and y. Yeah, that is just different points on the circle itself. So that's a great question. So if h and k are my center points, right? And r is my radius, what is x and y? X and y, they're points along the circle itself. So all of these points here that I'm drawing out, right, are my x and y value. Yeah. X comma y, x1 comma y1, x2 comma y2. There's just multiple points along the circle. Okay. So my x and my y, there are multiple points there. So that's why I am not too concerned about x and y. It's just x and y. Okay. In the equation of a circle. All right. So if the center is at 1 comma -4, let me do this. X minus 1 quantity squared plus y minus -4 quantity squared equals, my r is 2, so 2 squared, right? My r is 2. So here, if I clean this up a little bit, I have x minus 1 quantity squared plus y negative times a negative is a positive 4 quantity squared equals 4. That is the equation of a circle. Okay? Yes. We'll do that now. Okay? The circle with the center of negative 2 comma 5 that contains the point P of negative 2 comma negative 1. Point P, if it contains the point P, that's my x comma y. Okay? So in this equation, in my general form, I have x, y, I have h, k, right? I don't have the r. But since I have all of those other ones, I can basically solve it for r, right? And my equation is going to be like this. Okay, my x and my y will always be there. Yeah. Okay, this is the standard form of a circle. Okay, so there needs to be an x, there needs to be a y. So here, my center is at negative 2, 5. So I know it's going to be x minus negative 2, which will make it plus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 5 quantity squared equals r squared, right? And I'm going to plug in negative 2 and negative 1 into my equation. So negative 2 plus 2 quantity squared plus negative 1 minus 5 quantity squared equals r squared. And now I'm going to solve for r. Okay? So negative 2 plus 2 is 0. 0 squared is 0. Negative 1 minus 5, that's negative 6 squared, which is 36, equals r squared. So r squared equals 36. So we square root it. R equals plus or minus 6, right? Sure, but sometimes there's going to be a value here. This is negative 2. So negative 2 plus 2. Oh, this plus 2? Why did I put a plus 2? Oh, because then this is a negative 2. So it's x minus negative 2, which is a plus 2. Okay. So your radius is plus or minus 6, correct? It's either positive 6 or negative 6, right? Is it? Is your radius equal to positive 6 or negative 6? Why? No, that's the center. There can't be two radiuses, but radii, but thank you. So the radius, right, is the length from the circle to the center, right? That's your r, correct? That's the radius of a circle, correct? This is the length, right? The length of the distance between your center and the circle. Yeah. And length cannot be negative. So your r is always going to be positive whatever value you have. Okay? So if I plug in 6 into here, I get for my equation of the circle, x plus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 5 quantity squared equals 6 squared, which is 36. That's the equation. Huh? Yes. Because this is the equation of the circle. All right? There's always going to be an x, there's always going to be a y. They just gave you one point that can be x and that can be y, but there's like infinity amount of points around the circle, right, to make it into a circle, because there's literally infinite amount of points. Okay. All right. So we're good with that. What is going on here? Right. So graph the circle after writing the equation in standard form. Remember that standard form is x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared, and h and k are your centers. Notice again that we have two completing the squares, right? We have to build this from this. Okay? So there's two completing the squares. So my first thing is I'm going to use the steps that I learned in my computing the squares lesson for this. I'm going to first subtract 30, right, to get the constant on one side of the equation. Okay? What I'm going to do is when I simplify this, I'm going to gather up the x's. Okay? Because I know I'm going to have to complete the square, but I have to gather up the x's first, right? Plus y squared plus 6y equals negative 30. Now I know I'm going to have to complete the square. So I'm going to put parentheses around here and plus blank. Put parentheses around here and put plus blank. Does that make sense? I'm setting up to complete the squares equations, right? Or processes, and completing the square process. So I'm going to get this negative 10, right? And complete the square, divide it by 2, half it, and square it to get negative 5 squared to get 25. So I know I'm going to add 25 here. I'm adding 25 to my left-hand side, so I know I'm going to add 25 here, right? And then getting the 6, dividing it by 2 and squaring it. I would have 3 squared, which is 9. So I'm going to add 9 here. So I'm going to add 9 here because that's a total value of 9. Okay. So now we have this, the x part of it becomes x minus 5 quantity squared plus y plus 3 quantity squared equals 9, 25. This is negative 5. Negative 5 plus 9 is 4. Right? Do you see how completing the square, that skill made the circle? Yeah. Now we're going to have to graph it. Graphing is simple. Okay, what's my center? Huh? No. It's not negative 5 comma 3. Close. 5 comma 3, no, close. 5 comma negative 3, right? So you just take the sign that's opposite. Because it's already x minus h and y minus k, right? So because this is already a minus, my h value is 5. Since this is already a minus, y minus negative 3 creates a positive 3. So that's why it's negative 3. Okay? What's my radius? No. No. 2. 2, because r squared is 4, right? If r squared equals 4, then square root it, r has to be 2. So I'm going to graph this by hand. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So my center is at 5 comma negative 3, right? So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 3 is here, so it's right there. Right? That's my center. That's my h comma k. Okay? My radius is 2. So from this point, all I'm going to do is go to the right 2, down 2, to the right, to the left 2, and then up 2. Okay, and if I was using graph paper, it would be evenly spaced out, right? Okay, so that has a radius of 2, right? If I go up, down, left, right, and then do your best to try and draw a circle. Okay, if it's depressed here, that's fine. Yeah, but just do your best to draw a good, perfect circle. Okay? Because r in this equation here, right? This is the standard form of this, right? So equals r squared equals 4. So if r squared equals 4, then r must equal 2. Yeah, if you square root it from both sides. And you're only getting the positive version of it. Okay? Questions on this? The next one that I have for you is this. So I'm going to subtract 11 and put it on the left-hand side. So it equals negative 11. So 4x squared plus 8x plus blank plus 4y squared minus 16y plus blank, right? The plus blanks are for computing the square. I gathered up the y's together. I gathered up the x's together, right? Notice that both x squared and y squared, the coefficient of them are 4, correct? So you know what I'm going to do? If there's a coefficient here, just divide it out. Divide by 4, divide by 4, divide by 4, divide by 4, divide by 4. Okay? So if I divide by 4 out for every single term in the equation, I have x squared plus 2x plus blank plus y squared minus 8 or minus 4, I apologize, y plus blank equals negative 11 over 4. Okay, that's a 4. All right. Completing the square, get the 2, get this coefficient of 2, half it, and square it. That's a positive 1 squared, so that's 1. I'm going to add 1 here, so I'm going to simultaneously add 1 here. Right? Get the negative 4, do the same steps, half it, and square it. That's negative 2 squared, so that's 4. So I'm going to add 4 here, and then add 4 here. Right? So this breaks out to be x plus 1 quantity squared plus y minus 2 quantity squared equals, if you guys have trouble with this from here to here, please go back and review the completing the squares lesson. Yeah, on my YouTube channel, and get that skill down. Okay. So negative 11 over 4 plus 5, this is 5. 5 in terms of fourths is 20 over 4, right? So negative 11 plus 20, or 20 minus 11, is 9 over 4, right? And so that's my equation. I did the completing the square twice, dividing it by 4 first. Before that, I got the constant on one side of the equation. And yes, guys, when this happens, sometimes it happens. Yeah. Just if you can, well, let me explain in a little bit. What's the center? Because we're going to have to graph it. Negative 1, comma, nope, 2, right? R squared equals 9 over 4, right? When we square root this one, I know I'm going to only take the positive version. What's the square root of 9? 3. What's the square root of 4? 2. So it's 3 halves. So that's like 1.5. That is 1.5. So here on my graph, I'm going to go negative 1, comma 2, which is up there. Go up, down, left and right by 1.5. And then do your best to make, that's not it, but to make a perfect circle. Okay, I don't look at your circle. I look at these points when I grade them. Okay. All right. So what I want you to do now is you guys try this one and then we'll be done. Okay. So here we have, I'm gonna gather up the x's, right? And just put a blank there because I know I'm gonna complete the square. Plus here, y squared plus 6y plus blank. I'm going to put that constant on the other side by just subtracting 4. Right? So I'm going to get the negative 4 or the positive 4, half it, and square it. Remember Bop It? The game? That's how I remember it. Because we're getting the value of, let's do the y as well. We're gonna half it. square it. Okay. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to add 9 here, add 9 here. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So add 4 here and add 4 here. So here in my x parentheses, x grouping, we have x plus 2 quantity squared plus y plus 3 quantity squared equals. These 4's would cancel out and make this left with 9. So my center here is at -2 comma -3. And my radius would be 9. There it is. Yes. It would be 3 because my r squared value will be 9. So my r is 3. Right? So when you're graphing -2, -3, that's my center. Go 3 units to the left, 3 units up, 3 units to the right. Three units down. Okay, and then try your best to make that circle. I'm not that great at it. Okay? All right? Questions? No? That is the lesson for 12.1 on circles. And what I need you guys to remember, right, is this first page here. Okay? Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.